Well, good morning, good morning. Good morning from Massachusetts here on the east coast of the US. I'm Jennifer. If you're coming back, welcome back. If it's your first time, welcome. I'm happy you decided to join me. And I'm going to do a quick tech check on my laptop to make sure that you can see me well and hear me well. If you are joining in, give me a thumbs up or just let me know that you can hear me and see me well. I'd appreciate it. Let's take a look. Julia is here. Hi, Julia. Good to have you back. Good to have you here, Julia. We'll see who else can join us. If you're watching the recording, thank you for taking time out of your day. But good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to those who are just joining us live right now. So we have about at least 30 minutes together. I always promise 30, but I usually go up to about an hour. We'll see. If you have questions, we'll make time for Q&A at the end. SOS has given me a thumbs up. Thank you. Garib Aziz, thank you. I see the hello also. I can't read the characters in Japanese, but I see that. Thank you. I assume Japanese, Chinese. I know some of the kanji. I studied Japanese a long time ago, so I do remember my little bit of hiragana, katakana, and kanji, but it was quite some time ago, by the way. Good to have you here, guys. We will be taking time to focus on synonyms. I asked my channel members to vote in a poll. What would you like to focus on? They chose synonyms. So we'll talk about what those are and how we can use them in just a bit. I'm just going to keep checking my chat to see who's joining us. If you can say hi in the chat, let me know where you're from. Where are you watching from and what time of day is it for you? Motabila, whenever I see my cat, I say meow to her. Well, you can meow. You can say whatever you want to your cat, right? You form a special relationship with your cat. Whatever helps you guys bond, that's fine. And I see Kandala Abhishek. Hello, hello. Good to have you here too. It is the 4th of July, so if anyone is watching on July 4th right now and you're in the US, happy 4th of July. Happy Independence Day. You know, it's something, the whole idea of independence and freedom is something that we can all celebrate and appreciate. As I was getting ready for the live stream, I was thinking about the freedoms that I most enjoy, right? Of course, just the freedom to live freely, choose freely. But one of the things I truly love is that I am an independent online teacher. And being independent means I really get to choose what I want to do, who I want to work with, and when. I get to choose all of that. Now, of course, there's another side to that where there's like no steady paycheck and whatnot. But at the same time, I love the freedom of being a teacher who works independently, and I can take on the projects that I want. I can create things how I want. I can experiment and try new things. So I really appreciate being an independent online teacher, the freedom to be me as a teacher. I'd be curious to know, what kind of freedoms do you really value? I have the freedom to create things. I have the freedom to create my own schedule. I have the freedom to, I guess, wake up and go to sleep when I want. What do you have the freedom to do, and what do you most appreciate? I'd be curious to know. Liliana is here. Hi, Liliana. Orlise joined us from the Dominican Republic. Garabaziz, I see you're Kurdish. I'm happy to have you here. Bin Darwish is here as well. Resmi Jamatia from Tipura. I have to check my geography and figure out where all these places are. Some of them I know, some I do not know. Do a smash like button. Well, how about you guys just give me some likes and happy stickers? That would make me happy. Angelica Maria is here. Good morning to you. I assume that you're somewhat in the same time zone. Okay. Roxana joined us from Texas. Hi there. Good to have you guys here. Welcome, special welcome to the members. Thank you for being here. Thank you for voting and helping me choose today's topic, which is synonyms. Let's write that in there. Synonyms. Synonyms. Sometimes I misspell it myself. I think I got it right. Synonyms, and then the opposite, antonyms. And I just gave you a hint. Antonyms. Antonyms are the opposite. So, quick little quiz here. If I say a word, you give me the opposite. Usually this works well with adjectives. So if I say tall, what is the antonym of tall? We'll start easy and get a little harder, right? Who can give me the antonym for tall? The antonym. Antonyms are opposites. It's good. It's a good skill to have is to know words that are the same or similar and words that are opposite, right? You might know some tall people. Hey, Susan, good to have you here. Do you know tall people? And what do you consider to be tall? Right? Sometimes when I was growing up, I grew quite fast and I was taller than all of my friends by fifth or sixth grade. There was me, and then there were all of my friends. And you can see pictures of me sort of trying to be a little smaller. I didn't stand up straight because I was kind of embarrassed of being taller than my friends. Now I'm kind of happy that I have my height. I wouldn't say I'm super tall. I'm a little above average with my height, and I enjoy my height. So I'm somewhat tall. Short, yes, is the opposite. Angelica, surprise. Oh my gosh. You're asking about TV shows. We'll do some Q&A towards the end, but I don't watch those shows. Right? Ah, slim is more about weight. So slim, thin, what would be the antonym of slim or thin? Julia gave us the word slim. Right, when we're talking about height, we're talking about something vertical. You could be taller, you can be short. You could also be of average height, somewhere in the middle. Slim is more about weight. Slim, thin, those are similar words. Those are more like synonyms. The opposite of slim? Could be in that context, thick, like a slim. What would be slim? Like a rod, a stick could be slim, and then a thick one, like a branch too, right? A tree branch could be thick, right? Obese, I think you're obese. Obese is overweight, seriously overweight. So slim, heavy, I might choose heavy as an antonym. Someone might be very slim and they might also be heavy. You could say on the heavy side. On the heavy side. If you watched one of my shorts recently, we talked about euphemisms. Hey Manuel, I see you. Euphemisms. Let's write that word, euphemism. Another word I need to make sure I'm spelling correctly. Euphemisms. Check out that short if you haven't seen it yet. It's in the vocabulary playlist. Euphemisms are polite ways of saying things, so do be careful talking about weight. Generally, you don't mention if somebody's on the heavy side, and fat is not a nice word to describe people, right? You want a fat paycheck, right? A fat paycheck means a healthy amount of money, but fat itself for people is not a polite word. So euphemisms are polite ways of saying things. You could say possibly someone's on the heavy side, large, plump, those are nicer, but in general just stay away from weight because people can be very sensitive about those words. But fat, thin, even thin people might take offense. I don't like to be called skinny. Slender sounds nice, but not skinny, right? So be careful with those words. We can find words that are antonyms, find words that are synonyms, meaning similar, but you always want to have some sensitivity choosing your words and think about what's appropriate and polite too. Okay? Mm-hmm. Well, Manuel, I'm glad you're here. A slim fit figure. Yes, that sounds nice, doesn't it? You want to be fit, you want to be healthy. Fit does not necessarily mean like thin, right? Because there's different body sizes and you can still be very fit. Some people have a figure that's more slim, like a slim figure. People might be a little on, not I wouldn't say the heavy side, but they could have a different body type and they are bigger in size, but they're still fit. They're still fit and trim. They don't have a lot of body fat, for example. Thank you, Manuel. Happy Independence Day. Yes. And I expressed my thanks. Manuel reminded me of my history that Spain did play a role in the American Revolutionary War, and it gets overlooked a lot of the time. We acknowledge France, but we sometimes forget the others who helped us too. So thank you, Spain. Okay. Uh-huh. Curved, tone body. Those are more synonyms for fit. Tone body is a good one. You can be toned, you can be fit. We usually say oversized rather than under. I'm glad you pointed that one out, Stefan, because in the context of clothing, you might want an oversized shirt. An oversized shirt. Hold on to that because we'll need these adjectives in a moment. Okay? I see you, Esperio Belmontes. Good morning to you. All right, so let's jump in. But before we do, I'm going to work my little magic and share my screen. Well, most of you are here. What do I do? Screen and webcam. There we are. Whoopsies, not that. Hitting on all the wrong buttons. There we go. Okay. Can you see my screen now? Can you see a screenshot of a poll that I had on the community tab? Take a look. Okay, and I'm going to make sure I can keep the chat in here. Okay. Okay, so I had a poll, and thank you to the 143 people who voted. I asked, would you benefit from a long video that was audio only, perhaps with images, but mainly the purpose would be to listen. I would not be on camera, you would simply hear my voice. Would you like to develop your listening and vocabulary through 5 to 10 minute audio recordings on various topics? And somehow I'd find a way to provide the transcripts, but more importantly, it would be an opportunity to focus primarily on your listening skills. And 78% of you said yes. Don't worry, it doesn't mean I'm never going to be on camera again. I just asked if you'd want to explore this way of learning with me. Since 78% of you said yes, I'm curious what kinds of topics you'd be interested in. So before we get to our main topic right now of synonyms, let me ask you to write some ideas for me in the comments. If you're watching the recording, please voice your ideas, suggest ideas and topics in the comments. What would you like to listen to? For example, American culture. Would you like to hear stories from my life, life lessons? I thought about that. Some of the stories that taught me things, events that I've gone through that have taught me things about life I could share with you, or we could focus on American culture. We could also talk about how to do a certain process. I can focus on a certain area of interest to you, like food and nutrition. Not that I'm a nutritionist or a specialist, but I can talk about something and we can focus on a set of vocabulary that you can hear in context. So give me some ideas, okay? Well, we could still have our live streams, we'll still have our shorts, we'll still have our long videos. My question is, could we add to all the wonderful things we do together to study English? Would you like audio to be a stronger component, right? For a clear view, yes. This is just, does that help? I know some of you are on your phones. Does that help, I hope? And again, when you listen to something for 5, 10 minutes, it may not be the goal to understand every single word, at least not initially. What you're doing is you're exposing yourself to English, right? And you're going to expose yourself to extended speech. So it's the idea of just giving yourself some exposure to English in a 5 to 10 minute video. If I do a couple of these a month, it could be on a regular basis. But the difference being is that you would also get a transcript. In regular everyday conversation in real life, you don't get a transcript, right? That could be a thing. Someone's saying the volume is down. I don't know. On my laptop, it sounds fine. Culture. I'm saying American culture. Okay, sounds good. Quick sound check. Can everyone else give me a thumbs up or say I hear you fine? Someone made the comment that the volume is low, but hopefully you can all hear me. Okay. Okay, thank you, Liliana. Videos with both pictures and audio, but podcast. Not quite podcast necessarily, but I just picture a video, but focus on the audio. It's something that I do both in English and also in Russian as of late. Sometimes I'm in the car and I'm driving and it's a 5-10 minute drive. I just want to listen to something along the way, right? So I put something on. I'm not watching it, but I'm listening to it, and it's something that I enjoy while I'm doing errands around the house, right? I might be folding laundry and I put something on, not to watch, but to listen. And I think it could be something beneficial. So we can try it out. Phrasal verbs. Phrasal verbs in context, for example. There's quite a lot of things we can do. So if I move forward with this and experiment, feel free to make suggestions, okay? Super. Soft but low, says Liliana. I don't know, on my side. Turn up your volume, guys, because I'm on my laptop and it sounds fine. Okay. I promise, I'm sorry if there are audio issues. I will do another tech check before, but I usually do check my tech and it sounded good. Okay. All right, so let's move on, guys. Let's get into our topic of synonyms. Synonyms, words that are similar. It's easy to remember. Synonyms, words that are similar. They have similar or even the same meaning. Similar or same. Antonyms are opposites, right? Like tall and short, right? Fat and thin. Big and small. Right now, I'm just going to look at a few A1 level words. Words that, of course, you know, these are easy. The question is, what other words do you know with a similar meaning? And let's think about the nuances, the little differences between them. So here are some words, and I'm going to show you the whole list that I have, and you can start suggesting some synonyms for these words, right? So, for example, what is another way to say big? What is another way to say big? Liliana says, yes, you can hear better. Good. Let's turn up the volume, guys. What is another word for big? And it depends on the context, right? Like a big problem or a big idea. Enormous, thank you. Manuel's off to the races here. Enormous. Mammoth. Mammoth. And my mind automatically starts pairing these adjectives with certain nouns because they go together more naturally. I might talk about a mammoth task, for example. Mammoth is so big, and it's going to be complicated. It will take a long time. Enormous, I think of physical size, right? Their house is enormous. Like, why do they need such a big house? Enormous. Big goes very well with a big problem, right? Big idea. Big. Robust and heavy. Okay, wait. Big, robust. Could be, yes. A big company, a big business could be a robust business, possibly, in that context. Big, actually you're right. Let's think about this. You may not immediately think that heavy is a synonym, but when we talk about a big box, be careful that that's a big box. If it's big, it's probably also heavy. Not necessarily, but it could be. Be careful carrying big boxes. Could imply the weight also, right? Small, tiny, I'm seeing that as, and a difference being that tiny really emphasizes how small it is, right? A tiny mistake, you really want to emphasize it's not serious at all. And let's actually put this up here. You may not immediately see serious as a synonym, but it is depending on the context. A big mistake is a serious mistake, right? Tiny could be physical size, like baby shoes are so tiny, right, compared to the shoes that we put on our feet. tiny in size. Tiny houses, they actually have houses called tiny because they're really designed for one, possibly two people, but usually one, and they're super small. So very tiny. Tiny feet, physical size works well with tiny. We'd also might call was like tiny mistake, again, very minor. So there's another one. Instead of serious, minor would be the antonym. A very small mistake is a minor mistake. If it's minor, it could also be insignificant. That's not just of mistakes, it could also be a feeling that we have. If someone doesn't make us feel important or special, we feel kind of small, we feel insignificant. That's possible. Large, great, huge. I see that, Marlene. Great. Great. A great problem, possibly big problem. Great challenge. A big challenge, a great challenge. That could work. Huge. Let's add that. Very nice. Huge, I also think first and foremost of physical size, but it's not limited to that. Okay. Currency. Important. I love that. Right. This is a big priority for me. If something is really big and important, we actually can put the two words together. So it's not always a matter of substituting. Sometimes we pair them. Big and important, right? Someone who is big and important in the world of business, for example. Crucial, essential, that also, those are synonyms for important. This is a big decision, an important decision, a crucial decision. Very good, Manuel. You're off to the tiny, itty bitty. Liliana, you said a tiny bit. We also have the cute word itty bitty. Itty bitty is cute way of saying very small. Humongous, good, Julia. Humongous, really. Humongous and enormous, they both end with the same adjective ending. Humongous, humongous really emphasizes that size. So does massive, by the way. A massive problem, a big problem. A humongous amount of work, right? You're really emphasizing, possibly exaggerating the amount of work that you need to do. Okay. Vital is a good synonym. Once we start understanding that big can mean important, there are a lot of synonyms for important, crucial, essential, vital, Manuel suggested, right? This is a big component of the plan, right? It's vital, it's very important. Very good. Tremendous, tremendous. You could, right? Because it's like great. I'd say tremendous is similar to great. Like I could say Stefan made a big contribution. He made a tremendous contribution. Yes, tremendous. What we're seeing here is that once you start exploring synonyms of big, we recall that big actually has a number of uses. There could be a number of definitions. It could imply physical size. It could imply importance, for example. We could attach value to it. How significant is it? It's tremendous. It's great. I didn't see anybody put little. I'm going to put that first and foremost, right? I'd say that the first one that comes to mind for small is little, and the first one that comes to my mind for big is large. Now, what would be the difference? Who knows? When you go shopping, or you perhaps you do see the tags on our shirts, and you see the sizes. We have small, medium, and what do they say? Do they use big or large on our tags when our clothing is labeled with a size? So it's also good to know the context. Large and big are synonyms. Which one is used for sizes, for clothing sizes? Who knows that one? I told you. So it's also interesting, all right? We say small, we don't say little. I need size little, but you need size small. And if you want to go one size down, extra small, we have extra small. Small, yes, Stefan, small. Small and large, right? Small, medium, and large. For clothing sizes could also be, let's say for ice cream cones. It's summertime here, and in my region, there are a number of ice cream stands, and you can get different sizes. There's small, medium, and large. Actually, if you want the smallest size, they usually call it a kiddie cone, like for a child, kid, or baby. It makes you feel a little silly ordering a kiddie cone or a baby cone. But in truth, in reality, it's still quite sizable. It's and the actual large cone, I would say, is enormous. It's too much. It's crazy. Okay. What Kadar? You're saying baby. Yes. Well, in that context, small, medium, and large ice cream cone, they do have a size at my local ice cream stand called a baby cone. So baby is used for a small size. Okay. Good, good, good. All right, job. Julia gave us some ideas. Career. hmm What kind of job do you want? What kind of career do you want? Career is more of the path. There might be many jobs within the career, but again, if you don't want to repeat the word job, you might find a way to use career. You could also talk about your work, right? You might also talk about your position, perhaps, right? The work that you do. CEO, boss. I'm seeing related words. I would say job and career. I also say, what kind of work do you do? Those are the two closest ones, right? Well, this is an important one to think of because we don't want to overuse words like good and well. It looks good and he does something well. If he does something well, or you're not healthy, if you could be healthy, I just gave you one. That's one meaning, right? If are you feeling well? Are you feeling healthy? But if you do something well, what are we talking about? And where you might get ideas, I think I'll skip over right now to some of our resources. Let's go here, right? Longman is one of my favorite learner dictionaries. And remember how dictionaries work. They're always going to list the most common meaning first in a successful or satisfactory way. Right? Longman often does give synonyms, but you can just review the different types of meanings of well, right? To do well. Well before, well, you could also see the context for well. What I also like to do sometimes, although you have AI, I know you could do this with ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini, you could also go to a thesaurus, thesaurus.com, and they'll tell you strong matches, weak matches, but well, if you're well, you're fine, you're fit. I like these ones. Great, right? But I'm also thinking, how do you do things well in terms of, let's jump out of here, go back to our task. If you do things well, you do things skillfully. That's what I was thinking. If you do it with skill, you do it well, so you do something skillfully. You could also do something beautifully if we're talking about skill. hmm Bravo, bingo. It wouldn't be a direct substitute. Like if I say he sings well, he speaks well in front of an audience, I would then use skillfully, beautifully as substitutes. But I would say things like bingo might be more of a synonym for things like correct or great, like bingo, like that's it, good idea. Okay. Ah, good, Manuel. It's true. Along the lines of health, when we say someone isn't very well, we might be talking about their mental health. So if they are well, they might be sane, right? If they're not well, they're not fully sane. They don't have all of their mental abilities. You know, they could not be, they may not be mentally well. That's true. Okay. Employment, function, good. Oh, I like that one. You might talk about employment in some way. Employment. hmm There are lots of synonyms for money. You want to make money. You want to have what? An income, your earnings, right? If you're talking about bills and coins, you're talking about cash, having cash on hand. If you have lots of money, you can talk about your wealth, for example. Wealth. Good, good, good. And I'm going to give you a moment because I'm sure that you guys can come up with ideas for important. We might even borrow some words from up here for important. I see, Manuel, from before, you wrote significant. Significant, yes. If there's an important matter to discuss, it could be a pressing matter, pressing like it's pushing, and there's a lot of pressure to deal with it right away. A pressing matter, a pressing issue. You need to deal with it now. Important. Urgent, I like that, good. An urgent matter, a pressing matter. Oh, good. Wealth, billionaire. Surprise. Euphemism, there's a question about something we discussed before. Watch my short video. I posted it recently. Euphemisms are polite ways of talking about things. Instead of using very direct, blunt language, you might use a euphemism to be softer, right? You wouldn't say that someone is fat. You might say they're on the heavy side. You wouldn't say they're skinny. You might say they're thin or slender. Sounds a little better. But I also explained be careful with words describing people's weight. Do be sensitive. Probably better not to mention it, right? But for example, what would be euphemism? I gave one in the video. If someone died, you might say they passed away. Passed away is a polite way of talking about someone who has died. That's a euphemism. Okay. Prominent. Prominent has yes, prominent for importance. Prominent. Prominent figure. And if you're like, what's prominent? So some of these words I think are familiar to all of you. If you're B2, around there or higher. If this is unfamiliar to you, Julia gave us this word. Did I even spell it correctly? Look at me. It has an E-N-T. Prominent. Spelling wise, isn't that interesting? E-N-T, A-N-T, in terms of pronunciation, they would sound the same. That's why we can easily make spelling mistakes. I do it too, as you see. So let's go to prominent. Let's first go to a dictionary. Whoops. And so you can see some examples with prominent. 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 Okay. And you also look at how they're using it. What kinds of things can be described as prominent? A prominent role, a prominent part, a prominent position, right? So it's important. Roles, parts, positions, a person in a certain field or circle, right? So if you take this word and go over to the thesaurus, you could also see strong matches. Outstanding is the strongest match there. Okay, super. Okay, let's come back to our list. Paramount. I saw that you used paramount. Of paramount importance. Mount, you think of mountain, you know it's some sort of elevated. It has a reference to elevation. So paramount. Of paramount of importance. If there are any new words, I would encourage you to write them down, use a learner's dictionary, see the types of phrases that are given as examples, then use the phrase in your own example sentence. You can write that kind of example sentence in the comments for me to comment on and to check. Okay? It is, yes, that's a good collocation, of paramount importance. It's very, very important. We use that to emphasize. Let's put that in parentheses as an interesting phrase, of paramount importance. Good collocation, Julia. Okay. So what we're calling attention to is that there are common words A1, A2 words, and we use them quite a lot. And it's fine to use them, but we do want to know higher level words sometimes, especially if we want to elevate our writing or if we find that we're repeating words. But I will say one thing, if you go to higher level words and you choose one like crucial or tremendous, these ones especially you want to be careful not to repeat too much because they're special, they're high frequency. So if within a paragraph you're trying to use tremendous twice, it's going to jump out because we don't use tremendous as much as, let's say, big or large. So when you use the high level words, think about them as like gems. You want to have them sparkle. And if you add like 50 of them, it's a bit too much. Think of like a woman wearing a single diamond is very pretty. If she's trying to wear 50 of them, it's a bit too much. So let your higher level words sparkle. Don't overload a text with too many high level. Well, you want to have a high level word if you're writing at in formal English or at a sophisticated level, but the idea being is that there is a point where it becomes overloaded with words that are high level, especially the obscure ones, the ones that aren't very familiar to people. It then becomes inaccessible, harder for people to read. So be careful. Always know your audience. That's a piece of advice. Do you need to write in more accessible language, or are you trying to write at a more sophisticated level? And think about who your reader is and what kinds of words you want to use, right? More general, everyday, more academic and sophisticated. Okay. Liliana, thank you. I see that. Thank you. Very sweet. Liliana just gave me a super sticker, a super thanks. Thank you. All right, guys, moving along. I'm going to challenge you now and think, why? Why do we need these synonyms? We're going to look at different reasons, and I'm going to challenge you. So let's say sometimes it's good to know a synonym for a very common word because you want to be more specific, or you can be more specific, and you're not challenging yourself to be more specific. So someone asks you after you return from a conference, how was it? And you say, good. Well, that kind of communicates to me that you don't want to talk too much about it, but could you possibly find another word for good? And of course, it depends on how good. If you say, good, good, what do you mean? Especially if we add that exclamation point, good, it was good, really good. Be more specific. You could also have someone say, good, which is a lower level of enthusiasm, correct? So give me some ideas. If someone says, good, good, really good, what are they saying? What is another way to express that feeling, that emotion, that positive emotion after a good conference? Fantastic. Outstanding. Yeah, I like that one. Good. Outstanding. Amazing. Okay. Incredible. Good, outstanding, amazing, incredible. Really helpful. Maybe helpful is what you mean. Like you enjoyed it, you learned from it, really helpful. And if you're going that direction, you might talk about it being very valuable. Oh, it was good, really helpful, very valuable. Get a little bit more specific if you want to talk about what you mean by good. Well, if someone did a good job, you might say, yes, you rock. That's a good synonym in that context, Julia. Marvelous, says Julia. Oh, marvelous, amazing, outstanding, incredible, really helpful, very valuable. Okay. But what if someone says, good, good? What does that tone communicate to you? What does the person mean by good, good? Ah. They're not at the same level, right? They just came down. What the person is really saying is sometimes you can explain this way. Good overall, meaning there were parts of it that you didn't like. So you could clarify. Good overall. Good. Any ideas? Not bad, yeah, not bad. Um, Helpful. You might qualify it. Helpful to some degree. Help, like instead of really helpful, helpful to some degree. Nothing new. How about nothing new, nothing special? Nothing new, nothing special. I'm glad you suggested that manual because that could be like it didn't meet your expectations because you go to conferences to learn things. If you didn't learn anything new, then it was like, oh, good. Like maybe you still enjoyed seeing people, going out, but it wasn't anything special. So hear the difference. Good, outstanding, amazing, incredible, really helpful, valuable, right? That's at a high level of satisfaction. Taking it down, how was the conference? Good. Good overall. Not bad. Helpful to some degree. Nothing new, nothing special, right? You might actually then choose, mediocre. Mediocre. Do I spell that right? If you watched the latest video, I had some help from my son creating a list of Gen Z slang words, and I've learned that mid is a Gen Z slang word for like mediocre, mid. So I can imagine some people might be using this casually in this kind of context. I don't, it's not my word. I'm a different generation, but I understand it now, how to use this word. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Yes, that's a good one. That would be a high level of enthusiasm. Okay, so it's helpful to know synonyms when we want to be more specific. It's also helpful to know synonyms when you want to avoid repetition in our speech. I just said earlier that there are some everyday words we do repeat quite often because they're high frequency words. High frequency means we use them with frequency. But even so, you don't want to overuse them. Then we get to the higher level words. If you find a word that you like that's a synonym for big, like enormous or colossal, I don't think we put that on the list. Colossal is like enormous, humongous. You wouldn't want to overuse those words. Remember my explanation about the diamond? One diamond is very pretty and makes a statement. If you have like 5, 10 diamonds, it might be showing off too much and it's too heavy, too big. So I wouldn't use colossal 3 times in a paragraph because it's not a high frequency word and I'm overusing the word colossal. We could use it once perhaps in a certain context and I wouldn't use it more than that. Same old song. Routine, mundane. Now you're getting into like not good, boring, mundane. Okay. So here's an example. Look at this spoken context. Here's the imagine this dialogue and you're going to see the repetition. Right? How was the conference? Good. There were so many good sessions. Any in particular that you liked? Yeah, there was one really amazing speaker. He had such amazing energy. So was it worth it? Definitely. I learned a lot. I definitely learned from every session. It's fine. It's fine. It's clear, it's natural, and yet you see all the repetition, right? Good, good, amazing, amazing. Definitely, definitely learned. So let's rewrite it and show how the vocabulary can change with the help of synonyms. The speech can become richer, right? With more variety. Gonna give me some ideas? Well, let's go up here. You guys gave me ideas earlier. Okay, so how was the conference? Let's choose one of your words. Someone said, okay, amazing, outstanding. Let's use incredible if we really liked it. Incredible. We could leave one good, but we could also replace good with helpful, valuable, informative in this context, right? Valuable, valuable, informative could work. How was the conference? Incredible. There were so many valuable sessions. There were so many informative sessions. Interesting. Yes, that's another one. Interesting, right? Interesting also is a form of praise, right? It wasn't boring. You learned something new. Interesting. There was one really amazing speaker. He had amazing energy. Surely one of these could be replaced. For example, you could say interesting speaker. We could change that to interesting, perhaps. Really interesting speaker. And then we could leave amazing once. We just don't want to use it twice, especially in such close proximity, right? It's already sounding better, right? Any in particular that you liked? Yeah, there was one really interesting speaker. He had such amazing energy. Down here, we can leave definitely once, but here we can probably come up with something else. Insightful, riveting. Ooh, I like those, Julia. Interesting, insightful. I like Julia's suggestions. Take a note of those. Riveting. Riveting is like it held you to your seat and you were just so interested and engaged and you found it very informative and exciting even. Riveting. Riveting speaker would be a good one because the speaker just held you to your seat and you were so engaged and interested. Good words, Julia. Manuel, we're going off on a tangent. Where did Shakespeare come from? Okay. Definitely, I learned a lot. Do you know there's a good word? I use this quite often in reference to lectures, talks, conferences. When you go to an event and you want to receive something valuable, you then have what? What do you have as a result from going to that kind of event or conference or lecture or session? There are things that you learned, there are tools that you have, there are valuable things that you can take from that. I downright benefited from every inch of the session. Benefited is good. I benefited from every session. I like that. You can take out definitely. We really don't need it. I benefited from every session. Inch is more for physical things, Julia. In this sense, I might use second. I benefited from every second of every session. If you really want to give that kind of praise, I'd go for every second rather than every inch. I picked up a lot. I picked up a lot of good tips. I picked up a lot of good information. I was thinking I benefited from every session. I got a lot of takeaway. And I've seen this written different ways. Takeaway like that, or maybe even one word, takeaway. I've seen it written different ways. So takeaway is, we're not talking about like takeout food from a Chinese restaurant or a pizza shop. Takeaway is what can you take away of value from a lecture, a talk, etc. Hopefully there's good takeaway. I hope after this live stream you'll have some takeaway, some new words, some new phrases, some new ideas that you can apply in your English. Right? So the person is now not saying definitely twice, but only once. We're not using learned twice, but only once. I like the suggestion of benefit. You could also use takeaway. If you benefited, then you're able to take something of value away from the experience. So now you can compare the original conversation to the one that we have now with richer vocabulary. We have more variety thanks to synonyms or synonymous phrases. How was the conference? Incredible. There were so many valuable sessions. Any in particular that you liked? Yeah, there was one really interesting speaker. He had such amazing energy. So it was worth it, right? Definitely. I learned a lot. I benefited from every session. I got a lot of takeaway. Okay? A plethora of profound insights. It sounds beautiful. It's very lofty. I think that kind of sentence takes time to think of and to write. It's not something I would expect in spoken English, but certainly if you're writing a review or a reaction, that would be beautiful for written text. Very beautifully written. Okay. All right. So you're seeing the value of synonyms to be more specific or to avoid repetition. This is an example of how we might do it in spoken English. I have one more example for you in written English. I'll read it and you can start making some suggestions. Look at the words that are repeating. Those are your opportunities to substitute. Let's find synonyms for the words that are repeating. I enjoy attending conferences for a number of reasons. First of all, meeting other professionals in my field is something I truly enjoy. I also enjoy learning about a number of different trends in my field. I also receive a lot of enjoyment from visiting a new city. Who doesn't enjoy a change of scenery? What do you suggest? Look at that. Even words in the same word family. So if enjoy, enjoyment, enjoyable, you're using too many words from the same word family, and you might also then think about how to reduce the use of that word family. And again, here, look at how many times I'm using also. Okay. I am keen to attend. Keen. Americans don't use keen as much, but yes, it has the same meaning. It expresses the same idea. It is a synonym. Again, you could leave it, right? You could leave one. It's just pretty much all the other ones can be substituted, can be replaced. First and foremost, for all intents and purposes, without further ado is a bit more formal. That's also without further ado. More so when you're transitioning from some kind of talk to the main event, Julia, then I would use, well, without further ado, let's discuss our main topic, or let me introduce our key speaker. Hey, Natish, I see you. Glad to have you here. Okay. And by the way, did you see another repetition here? A number of, a number of. Again, so you see this kind of text where there are no mistakes. It's all fine. But the repetition keeps the quality kind of low. There's too much repetition. It could benefit from synonyms. Of value. Marlene, you're so welcome. What else do you say? I like what Manuel said. Something I really value. I truly value. I like that idea. Opportunity. Uh-huh. So here you're right. You could use opportunity. I also value. First of all, meeting other professionals is something I truly value. Grow, where are you suggesting grow? Yes, you can grow from learning, perhaps. Benefit was a word we had above. Look, we had benefit, right? First of all, meeting other professionals I truly value. I also enjoy. I was thinking, who remembers this word? What word am I thinking of? Embrace. I like that. Ooh, great pleasure. Receive pleasure. That's a good one, Julia. So you can receive pleasure from something. So sometimes when we're looking for a synonym, it could be a single word equivalent, right? Like big, large, big, enormous. But sometimes it's going to be a phrase. It has the same meaning, and that could work too. So you could receive pleasure from something. Estimate, I don't think quite fits there, Manuel. I'm thinking of who sees it? How about appreciate? Would you agree with that one? I also appreciate learning about, we already have number of. You could possibly take this out. Learning about different trends. But if you want to experiment instead of different, you could also go with various. That works as well. Instead of a number of, again. I like Julia's idea, pleasure. I also receive a lot of pleasure from visiting a new city. Grow and enjoy learning. But the trick here, Liliana, is to avoid saying enjoy again. It's a challenge, but you have to come up with alternative ways. So what are some synonyms for enjoy? We came up enjoy, appreciate, receive a lot of pleasure. That works. And down here, in this context, whoopsies, what word do you think I'm thinking of there? Oh, unquestionable reasons. I like that phrase, unquestionable reasons. But it's nice. I'm wondering if that's the close synonym, right? When we looked at I can't say it, thesaurus, looked at the thesaurus, that's a tongue twister with the THs. When we looked at the thesaurus, there are strong matches and then weaker matches. And unquestionable sounds like a weak match to me, because I'm not saying like, I'm talking about quantity, I'm not talking about quality. Like unquestionable value is good value. I'm not talking about quality here. I'm just talking about how many reasons. A few, several, a number of reasons. Yes, Liliana, welcome. Who doesn't welcome a change of scenery? Your style should change. Yes, yes. And this is another thing. I'm glad I'm looking at Son of Iraq. Your comment made me think of an important point. When you're searching for synonyms, you have to think about your tone. How are you speaking? How are you writing? If you're speaking casually, then you'd want to choose synonyms that are still casual, right? You couldn't simply jump up then to start using highly academic words or formal words. It sounds weird, right? At the same time, if you're writing a more formal text and you start throwing in conversational idioms, for example, they might seem out of place. So keep in mind again what your tone is. Who are you talking to or who are you writing to? And try to be consistent with your choices of words and phrases. Okay, so the other thing I do is anytime I go through revisions, I think quietly, but I also then read things aloud because sometimes as you read aloud, you catch things that you missed before, right? So let's see if we enjoy this revision. I enjoy attending conferences for a number of reasons. First of all, meeting other professionals in my field is something I truly value. I also appreciate learning about various trends in my field. Aha, we still have also. I think somebody suggested other ways to avoid. How can we avoid saying also? Can you help me there? I don't want to say also twice. I receive a lot of pleasure from visiting a new city. Who doesn't welcome a change of scenery? Overall, I like it, but you see, through reading it, I realize, oops, I missed this one. Also. How can we avoid that? We'll take this one out. There's a number of things that we can do, right? There are words and phrases we have to add information. Some of them go very well at the end of a sentence. Some of them go well here at the beginning of a sentence, and they serve as a transition. Hey, Jasmine. Enormous knowledge. Yes, Vanessa's sweet. I did a collaboration with her a while ago. I receive a lot of pleasure. Also. Who wants to suggest? What could we put here? Right here? Or at the end, we could stick something there. Okay. What transition word do you know for adding information? Okay, and then we'll wind down. Son of Iraq, I see your comment. Hopefully we can give you some good takeaway before you sign off, and I sign off as well. We're looking at synonyms, ways that we can avoid repetition, ways we can be more specific by finding similar words and phrases with similar meanings. Okay. I had the word also, and I didn't want to repeat it, so I might use a different word. Even no, I was thinking, how about moreover is a little, you could do moreover works, or at the end of the sentence you could say, I receive a lot of pleasure from visiting a new city as well, right? As well. Additionally, now you're getting there. Danielson, I see you. I like additionally, in addition, moreover. You could also use as well at the end of the sentence. Okay, I'll read it once more. That's my advice. After you do a revision, read it aloud and see if it flows. Do you see any other opportunities for improvement? I enjoy attending conferences for a number of reasons. First of all, meeting other professionals in my field is something I truly value. I also appreciate learning about various trends in my field. Moreover, I receive a lot of pleasure from visiting a new city. Who doesn't welcome a change of scenery? Okay, so to recap for those who missed part of the beginning, we're looking at synonyms, words with similar meanings. Sometimes it's a single word match like big and large. Sometimes it's a phrase that has a similar meaning. Instead of enjoy, we came up with receive a lot of pleasure. What is a different way to say enjoy? This is a very important skill to develop because sometimes we need to be more specific. You keep relying on the same everyday words like good, big, enjoy, and you need to challenge yourself to replace some of them so that you're not repeating them, or that you are being more specific and accurate in how you're explaining your ideas. This is especially important in writing because you do have the opportunity to think, reflect, and revise. So why not make it more accurate? You have the time and opportunity to do so. Okay, I would encourage you to come back at some point and look and compare what was the original conversation and how did we improve it? What was the original text and how did we improve it? Right? If there are any new words or phrases, then note them down and create your own examples. Okay? Super. Okay. In addition, moreover, Julia is giving us more synonymous phrases and structures to consider. Thank you, Julia. Okay. All right, guys, we're going to wind down, and here's the challenge. I want to mention briefly idioms. Idioms sometimes can substitute an idea. There could be a single word, but we have an idiom, which tends to be quite a long phrase, usually. I was thinking of Independence Day and words that are appropriate for freedom and independence. And I want to call your attention to these 4 idioms. Some of them might be familiar to you, some of them may be new. Call the shots, spread one's wings, stand on one's own 2 feet, and march to the beat of one's own drum. I want you to see how these idioms in orange can substitute words in these 4 sentences. right? We're looking not just for synonyms, single word synonyms, but synonymous ideas. When is it appropriate to use idioms? When we want to have our speech sound more colorful. Idioms tend to be more common in conversational English. You don't see as many idioms in formal English, right? But they can be a good alternative when you want to color your speech a little bit. Again, don't overuse them. Like the diamond analogy I said before, a woman with a pretty diamond, it's nice. If she's wearing 50 of them, it's too much. So be careful with idioms. Don't try to use idioms in every single sentence, but if you have a few of them in your speech, it sounds nice and colorful. Okay? All right. Super. I see your observations, Manuel. Okay, you already know one of them. Okay, so help me out and we'll wind down. Members of my channel will have more practice with these idioms because there will be a follow-up task, right? It's a benefit. If you're a channel member, you'll get more practice with these idioms. Mark has always had a strong sense of self and does things his own way. If he does things his own way, these are all about independence and freedom. But if someone is doing something their own way, they're walking their own way, they're making their own choices, and they're not doing things as others people do. They're not following the crowd is another way to say it. Do you know which one that would be? Mark has always had a strong sense of self and does things his own way. It's not one, Manuel. I'll give you the hint. If everyone is doing the same thing, it's like they hear the same words, the same beliefs, and everyone does the same thing. But Mark is different. He doesn't listen to the same words, the same trends, the same advice. March to the beat. This is it. Do you get it? So here, we take this. And instead of this, he does things his own way. Instead of that, we can say he marches to the beat of his own drum. Does that make sense? Mark has always had a strong sense of self and marches to the beat of his own drum, right? He doesn't do everything that the crowd does. He does it differently, and he stays true to himself. Okay? Almost done. 2, I see your choices. Yes, I agree with that choice. She could do what? Stand on her own 2 feet to be fully independent. Yes, Julia and Manuel are leading us to the correct answers. It was clear that Neil enjoyed making decisions for the group. Yes, Manuel. He enjoyed what? Enjoy plus ing. Calling the shots. Awesome, Julia. Manuel, thank you. Which means the last one, Olivia wanted to become more independent and explore the world. What did she want to do? Look, all of this takes so many words to say. She wanted to spread her wings. Let's move this down. Idioms can be nice because sometimes they are more concise. Olivia wanted to spread her wings. She wanted to become more independent and explore the world. Okay, super. Okay. All right, guys, so the idioms for practice, you can practice afterwards, create your examples. Channel members will get more practice, and I'll give feedback on the tasks that I post for you on the community tab. March to the beat of your own drum, stand on your own 2 feet, call the shots, and spread one's wings. Good idioms to know. Okay, I hope you get a stronger sense of what synonyms are and how they help us both in spoken and written English. Again, synonyms are words with similar meanings. Sometimes it's a single word equivalent, sometimes it's a phrase that's an equivalent. That phrase could also be an idiom, right? Finally, as we wind down, okay, the questions are coming. Surprise is asking a question. July 4th, a lot of people have family gatherings, picnics, firework displays are very common. My town had one, or the town next door. One town over, I went to their fireworks display the other night. Okay, super. Yes, Julia says she wants to, or is it Jasmine? She wants to spread her wings when you get older. Yes, there will be a day when you want to spread your wings. All right, folks, we're going to wind down. Remember, after the live stream, I will be posting tasks for members. If you want additional practice with synonyms and those 4 idioms, there will be a follow-up task on the community tab. So you can join, become a member, and check out the perks on the community tab. There is also a 1-question quiz every single week. So if you want a little bit of practice, that's a nice way to get it on the community tab. Lastly, I'm just going to tell you, remember, if you want more in-depth practice and feedback, if you want to say, oh, but Jennifer, this is nice, but I want to turn on my camera, I want to turn on my mic, you can in a certain way, and you can also get live Q&A with me on Patreon, okay? So I have a membership program, English with Jennifer, and you can become a lifelong learner on Patreon. Right? Just go to Patreon, English with Jennifer. You can also go to my website, englishwithjennifer.com, and sign up there. And we have Zoom classes, pre-post lesson tasks, office hours, there's community interaction. We focus on all skills. The group votes every month on a topic, and they voted this month for July to practice describing people and events in detail with an emphasis on writing. But there's always an integration of all skills. If that interests you, check it out on Patreon. You can become a lifelong learner. Okay, I want to thank those who stayed here the whole time studying with me. Thank you so much. If you're watching the recording, thank you as well. Okay, I'm going to, whoops, come over here, and thank you all for spending this time with me. I wish you a wonderful day, a wonderful weekend, and check out the shorts if you've missed them. I heard somebody say, what's a euphemism? That means you didn't catch the short on euphemisms. Lots of good shorts have been posted recently. I hope you learn from them and enjoy them, and I'll see you again soon. Okay? The link for Patreon? Sure. Okay, so if you want to check out Patreon, I'll put that in there for you. Let's see if I can come back to the right place. There it is. Okay. Thank you all. I wish you a wonderful day. Take care.